Welcome back to the trail with Mushy the Cowboy Cook. Thanksgiving is not creeping up, it's quickly coming up on us. I've already done one video for a side dish for Thanksgiving. I've got a couple more I'm working on. Today I've got a dish that maybe you make it on Sunday before Thanksgiving and then you eat it through the week, make sandwiches out of it. And it is meatloaf. Pretty simple recipe. If you're baking ahead, baking pies and cookies and whatnot for Thanksgiving on Sunday, maybe you can throw this in between, eat it that night perhaps, or just make it for leftovers throughout the week as you're doing your baking and on the run up to Thanksgiving, and where space in the oven becomes a premium. Let's get into the video. To make this meatloaf, basically using 3 ingredients. Using a pound of hamburger, a pound of breakfast sausage, you could use Italian sausage, and salsa. Normally in meatloaf you're putting onions and peppers and tomatoes. That's what salsa is, or at least ingredients that are in it. So I have on the trail found a quick way to make meatloaf using salsa. I have even smoked it on a pellet smoker, and that turned out to be great. It took about 4 hours to smoke it. Now, I couldn't even find bulk sausage, breakfast sausage. I had to buy patties, but that's fine, it's the same thing. So I've got a pound of sausage, pound of hamburger. This is a 24-ounce jar of salsa. I use mild, you can use hot, whatever flavor heatness you want. I'm going to use about 16, 18 ounces right in there. May come back and use a little more. Now I'm going to use some of Kent Rollins mesquite seasoning. Give it a little more of a Southwest smoky taste. I also used about a tablespoon of that, and I'm going to use about a tablespoon of roasted garlic and herb seasoning I found in a store. When I go shopping, I'll pick up different herbs and spices, mixes, stuff like that, and give them a try. A couple teaspoons of that. And then a couple teaspoons of, now the other one was just a no-name brand basically. This is a Mrs. Dash onion and herb seasoning blend, salt-free. Both of them smell real good. A couple tablespoons of that. Now I do have some breadcrumbs in case I need to tighten it up a little bit before I put it on the pan. Now I got a comment recently. Somebody wanted to know about the capital E on the end of my name, and actually Cookie's name and Bossy and Mosey, everybody's name. Well, when I started cooking with Cookie, obviously those are his wagons, so he was Cookie. And then obviously I became Mushy, basically being the assistant cook. And when I started, we started really getting into cooking, and I started coming up with trail names for other people, because we are on the trail cooking. And if you've ever done much backpacking, especially like the Appalachian Trail, you'll end up with a trail name. So being my Boy Scout experience, I kind of went in that direction and started coming up with trail names for everybody. And I thought, well, let's do something a little different off of that, and just not have just the name mushy and cookie, even though I already have an E in it, I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of breadcrumbs. Just tighten it up a little bit. And since his name was Cookie, mine was Mushy, I thought, well, let's make it a capital E. Kind of like cattle ranches and have a name, you know, Bar E Ranch or the Double C Ranch, things like that. So, as I came up with trail names for people, I just put a capital E on it. And now there are some characters you have not met. One of them is Tumbleweed E. Now he got his name from a show we were doing. He got up to go get something, and he fell down on the ground. So once we made sure he was all right, I gave him his name, Tumbleweed E, just like out west the tumbleweeds blowing and turning over across the prairie. There's Antique E, Cowboy E, Mule E, and then of course you know you've met Mosey, and I know you've seen Stumpy in one of the videos at least, that where I actually said who it was. And we're having a little bit of fun with it, but a lot of people have nicknames. Those are our trail names, and that's the story behind it. Now here's the meatloaf. I've got it on a pan, like a broiler pan. I sprayed it, sitting on top of another pan. Now this will fit into my 16-inch Dutch oven, which I've got heating up, and I've got a trivet in there. The trivet raises it up so that air circulates, kind of like in an oven. That's how I'm treating it. I'll of course have bottom heat and top heat. And we're going to bake it for about, it's going to take an hour, 15 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this roasted garlic and herb. Come back with a little extra on top. Just a little sprinkle. And I'll go on and do all 3 of them. A little bit more of Kent Rollins mesquite seasoning. And the Mrs. Dash onion and herb. Now season it like you want. Now after it's basically done, I'm going to make up a sauce to go over it. I'm going to use ketchup, barbecue sauce, and maple syrup. And if I find 1 or 2 other ingredients in the kitchen in the meantime, I might throw that in. But in the meantime, I'm going to get this in the Dutch oven and get it baking. If you're doing it inside, you want to go 350, 375 for a good hour and 15 minutes, mainly depending on how big your meatloaf is and how thick it is. This is probably a good inch thick. So you can do it, like I said, do it inside 350, 375 for an hour, just a little more. And then put any kind of sauce you want on top. Let me get this in the oven and get it cooking. Alright, it's been right at an hour. So now I'm going to make up a quick sauce to go on top. I'm going to use about 2 tablespoons of ketchup, about 2 tablespoons of barbecue sauce, and then about a tablespoon of maple syrup. Depending on your crowd, you can put a little hot sauce in it. Other flavors of barbecue sauce. Well, we're going to make do with what we have. Alright, we got a tablespoon of barbecue sauce. I actually like mine a little bit more barbecuey, but we'll go with this. It is what it is. You work with what you got. Taste this a little bit. Sweeten up a little bit more. That'll work. Now, I'm going to go off camera, grab the meatloaf, bring it back, and we'll sauce it up, stick it back in for another 10-15 minutes. I checked the internal temperature. It was about 160, 165, so it is done right now. Let me get some gloves. Now, one thing I did not say, which I went on and put it in and then realized I didn't do it or say it. There's the meatloaf without any sauce on it. Was that I poured some water down in the pan just to give it some moisture in case it would need it as it was cooking. So just take your sauce. In fact, at about 45-50 minute time point, I could start smelling the meatloaf cooking. And like I've said before, use your senses, because obviously the first, depending on what you're cooking, 20-30 minutes, you may not smell anything. Especially something that's going to take upwards to an hour to cook. But within, 15-20 minutes, just like in your oven at home, you're going to start smelling it. A little smidge more. Alright, I'm going to get this back in the oven and for another 10-15 minutes. Alright, it's been about 10-15 minutes. Let me get my gloves on again. Smells good. And really smell it. Smell that barbecue sauce. There it is, in all its glory. Now I've always liked, for whatever reason, the end piece. I like meatloaf sandwiches as leftovers. Put in the comments down below what you like with your meatloaf. You like mashed potatoes, rice. We normally had mashed potatoes. In fact, tonight I've got mashed potatoes to go with this. Nice and tender, just like if you were to cut up onions and peppers and put in, tomatoes and cook it in there. This salsa is a quick shortcut. And like I said, if you go with mild, hot, that can add some, a little different flavor to it. Peach salsa, pineapple salsa can add a little bit different to it. So just play around with it, but this is something I'd recommend doing, like I said, on Sunday before Thanksgiving, so you have some leftovers through the week leading up to Thanksgiving, so that you don't have to necessarily make a meal. You can lean on this as leftovers and do your baking, baking ahead of time and cooking and prepping things for Thanksgiving. Give it a try. Definitely worth it. Remember, what you can cook inside, you can cook outside. Don't know what to say other than just scoop some more in. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video on meatloaf. A fairly simple recipe. I have done it out on the trail and turned out really good. Give it a try. Like I said, do it on Sunday so you can just eat leftovers through the week if you're too busy cooking for Thanksgiving. Remember my Amazon affiliate link down in the description. And if you like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. Share it, like it, and ring that bell. And Mushy the Cowboy Cook will see you down the trail.